Well, hi my friends, this is Jay, and this is Jay's Stitch Tutorial number 13. Well, tonight I thought, you know what, I want to get right into this beautiful stitch I've been practicing on all week. As you know, I'm in the middle of going through this beautiful book by Elizabeth Lovick called The Magic of Shetland Lace Knitting. The Magic of Shetland Lace Knitting. And it's a beautiful collection. Of course, a lot of you, and just like I have, we work these stitches out of other stitch books. But, you know, I like to pick a book and go through it and learn from different people and just to stretch my skills. And believe me, this book did. This book stretched my skills. Oh, so once I've already reviewed this book and told you what I thought of it. It's a beautiful book, and the stitches are just presented very nice. It is not, the book itself, I wouldn't say is a beginner book. There's a lot you have to already know quite a bit to really fully understand and enjoy this book. So that's why I'm doing this particular stitch tonight. My stitch, I'm going to call it stitch number 13, and I'll show it to you in just a minute, just to break it down. You know, if you just have someone to just break it down, it's not near as hard as it looks. But if you took the book as a whole, it can be very daunting. So real quick tonight, you see the book. Now let me show you the stitch because I want to get right into it tonight. I am in North Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, Georgia, and it is hot, hot, hot. That's why they call it the hot ATL here in the United States. All right, so now tonight, I want you to take a look. Let's see if I'm going to be able to bring this stitch, or if you can see it. I have to just get the book just right. There we go. And of course, I'm going to be taking you through it. But this is the stitch we're going to be working tonight. It is called Victorian Zigzag Lace. Victorian Zigzag Lace. And here is her swatch, or picture of the swatch. So if you have this book, many of you have bought the book, so if I'm going to review a book and then you buy the book, I want you to be able to know how to use the book. You know, you can maybe find her online, or maybe she might teach us classes on different sites, but this is just my interpretation as a seasoned knitter to just share with you how I would use the stitch. Alright, so here's the stitch right there, and as you can see, it is very pretty and very lacy. Now, of course, a lot of this lace, that's just what it is. Shetland lace is done in very fine yarns, but there are many of us, or many of you just like me, who just cannot work in a lot of the very thin yarns. It just takes too much out of, especially if you have arthritis in your joints or hands or fingers or elbows, anything like that. Or if you've had carpal tunnel, you may not, but that does not mean you cannot enjoy knitting lace or learning more about how to knit lace. Does that make sense? And even in the book, when I read in the review, she said it's about knitting the lace and more. Well, we're the more. So here, like I said, it is a Victorian Zigzag Lace stitch. There are 16 stitches in this pretty lace. And the reason I chose it, because like I said, a lot of you bought this book, and if you'll notice, if you have the book right off the bat, you're going to go, oh, Jay, she doesn't have the written pattern, she doesn't have the written words. No. So guess what we're going to do tonight? We're going to work from the chart. I'm going to share with you how to work this chart, break it down so that it is not hard as it looks. If you just take it, and guess what? There are only 8 rows. 8 rows for this beautiful lace. When you practice this lace, your friends would not believe that you knit this lace. I promise you. Now I'm going to try to speak up because it's hot and I've got my little tiny fan on. I just had to have some air, a movement of air. All right? So now, all right, so what I want you to do for this stitch tutorial, a stitch tutorial is where we practice a stitch. I isolate the stitch so that we can practice it, and then in another video I will design a project using the stitch. And I think you'll like the project too. So, simple supplies. For this lace, I suggest that you would go down, instead of our normal number 9 needles, drop down to a number 8. Just a number 8. I'm going to use just a standard US number 8, no particular brand. It's whatever you want. I also suggest that you drop down, if you can, to a number 3 weight yarn. Whatever brand, whatever quality, whatever, just whatever you want. It's more like a sports weight or a baby weight, something like that, or even a light number 4. You know how some yarns say number 4, but you know it's light. You can just look at it or feel it, or, So even a light number 4, just so that you can get at least the nice drape of this lace. Now I'm going to work a little bigger so that you can see the stitch that I'm working in. And if you, if you say, well, Jay, I really can't see that well, and, I might have to work a little larger too. That's fine. Just some care and simply solve. It's fine. All right, but at least try to work a number 8. Number 9 we have so many double yarn overs. I think it just loses its shape. So a number 8 will work better. All right, so that's all the supplies. A little practice yarn, some number 8 needles. I have the stitch here. I have the chart all ready to go, and we'll talk about it in just a minute. So let's get started on this beautiful Victorian zigzag lace. J-stitch tutorial number 13. Back in just a minute. All right, before we get started, let me give you a little quick look at the lace, how it looks knitted up in real time in the yarn that you've picked out or that I've chosen just to demonstrate in. So here is, and I'm just going to kind of pass it in front of the camera so that you can see it. And I'll turn it. That you can get an idea of how this lace looks. And the pretty, you really have to hold this lace up, but the zigzag is what makes it look so hard. Let's see, can I show it to you in another? I was just practicing in another color, so let me just show you how it looks. Here it is in another color. You can see, if you look real hard, you'll be able to see the zigzag stitch that's right in the middle, and then these beautiful scallops with a lot of the double yarn overs that we're going to be working in this lace. That's the front, and then the back. Looks pretty good too, because really we work both sides of this stitch. Alright, so that's the stitch. And like I said, I'm using, this is like a number 3 weight yarn. And it gives good stitch definition on a number 8. Alright, back in just a minute. Alright, before we get started, let's look and talk about the chart. Let's just kind of go over it and make sure that that you have an idea of how things work with a chart. I've done charts out of this book before, so, and I want to continue. Remember I said we're going to learn how to work out of charts, and I will keep them simple. I won't get crazy charts, okay? So that a lot of people can enjoy it. I don't want just a few. I want a lot of people to enjoy working from charts and realizing you really can do it. All right, first of all, let's look at, I just took this chart because I'm older. I just needed to have something that I can see. You know, I can't ruin my eyesight trying to look at those little small charts. So I simply took it to my UPS store, and I have a shout out. I have a shout out for who knew that you can meet the best friends at your local UPS store. So a shout out to my friend Judy and to Maria. They're the ladies that help me when I need to, get some things done or mail some packages or whatever I need to do. And so they have really become two great friends. So a nice shout out to them. And I hope they get to see this shout out. They're my new besties. Okay, so, all right, first of all, for this stitch, it's 16 stitches and only 8 rows. 8 rows. But the only thing about it is that we're going to be working the front and the back of each row. There's no rest row. There's no just purl row or a knit row. Every row we will have to work pattern. And this is why I chose this, just to get you started and get you kind of getting the feel of how easy it is if you just take your time to work it. And of course, you know how I work. I like to draw my things out in what I call a working formula. It's simply a line of a cast on number. So for instance, this lace requires 16 stitches. I'll turn my little fan maybe. This lace requires 16 stitches. All right, now the rest of it, that's from the book. All of this other, I'm just making up, and you can just make it up. And we'll make up something when, we'll make our own formula when we make an actual designer project. All right, so I want a little border at the neck. Here's a neck on this side. So I went ahead and did 6 stitches. Remember, I always tell you, since I don't have written patterns, and I have to design this, and I'm showing you the easy way to do it. Always look and use something you already have. Well, I have 16 stitches over here. Well, the number 6 just jumped out. Well, why not use 6 stitches for the border? Perfect. Then I'm just adding some extra stitches. That's why it's a little X there. These are just extra stitches, just so that this border doesn't run into these stitches. So I put 3 stitches right here in the middle. So if you add 16, 3, and 6, you will get a cast on of 25 stitches. So the first thing I need you to do is take your number 8 needles, whatever brand you want to use, cast on 25 stitches, and then knit 2 rows. Does that make sense? 25 stitches, everywhere, and knit 2 rows, and then we will be ready to work row 1 of this chart. Now let's go and talk about the chart. And let me see if it's up close enough. I may bring it in just a little bit, and then I'll back out a little later when I just want to make sure that you can see what. Oh, and by the way, this design is on, if you have the book, I think it's on page 103. All right, like I said, in this book, there's a lot that you have to, I think she just assumes or presumes that the person who bought the book is kind of on her level, or they know, but like I said, I had to teach myself, and there's a lot of things you just have to, but I'm going to break it down. First thing off, on this, and you could do this at home, go ahead and number the rows. Number the rows so that you will know. The rows on this side of the chart, this is the right side of the fabric. These are the right side rows. So 1, then you skip a row, 3, 5, and 7. So that means the wrong side rows are over here. 2, they're the even rows, but there's 2, 4, 6, and 8. So we'll work row 1 going across. We'll work row 2 coming back. Row 3, row 4, and so on. Does that make sense? So that's why it's better to just make yourself a working copy. Don't ruin your book or write in your book, because you need to add these different things to help you to navigate this chart. Some other helpful hints to work this chart. All right, we have a lot of yarn overs, and we will take care of those as we go. We have a lot of stitches. The circle represents yarn overs, and then we have stitches that lean to the right. Stitches that lean to the right, we knit 2 stitches together. This stitch that leans, or this symbol that leans to the left, you see it leaning to the left, we're going to use a slip slip knit. That's what she uses, a slip slip knit. Does that make sense? All right, and then right here, up at the very last row 8 on the wrong side, we will be binding off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. So that's her little bind off. And of course we will take care of that when we get to it. Now let me just show you this little tip that will help you. In this chart, there's places where there's a lot of where there's just a lot of squares where we knit. And to save you time and to help your flow, just so that you'll get into a rhythm once we start, if you would go ahead and count some of these long spans of empty squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put in how many, and then you don't have to stop and count every time. So I know there's 5 here. Knit 5. See, I put a 5. Okay, most of them are knit 3, but I looked for anything that was kind of a little longer. Right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I put in a 5, so I don't have to stop and count anymore. Knit 5, all right? This one is 1, 2, 3, 4. I just went ahead and put in 4. But look at this long one when we get to row 5. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, sometimes when you're tired or you're just not really paying attention, and maybe you don't count and get the 7, you off 1 stitch. Well, that throws everything off, and oh my gosh. But if I go ahead and put a 7 here, I know that I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a lot easier to remember that way. Like I said, most of them are just knit 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, now here's one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went ahead and stuck a 5 there. Does that make sense? These are tips to help you as you navigate these knitting charts. All right, up here on row 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. I just stuck a 4 in there. Since it wasn't the 3, a lot of them are just knit 3. I just stuck, so I don't have to count. It won't slow me down. But now here's one on row 7 all the way here. Look at this long row. Well, every time I count this row, if I'm distracted and lose my count, that could just throw my whole that could just throw my whole lace off. So I'm on a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, wouldn't it be easier if you just put a number 10 there and you would know I'm supposed to knit 10? And then you can count your stitches and make sure that you knitted 10. And not have to go back, oh, wait a minute, did I knit? How many? Wait a minute. See, just little tips to help you. Then up here on this row, row 8, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I stuck a 6 there. Easy peasy. When you read through your charts as much as possible, like I said, I'm only going to pick charts that I can do well and that I can share with you. You know, we'll tackle harder ones on down the road. So there's a chart. You've cast on your stitches, you've knit 2 rows. I will be back in just a minute and we will start working row 1. Whew! So, good tips though for you to remember. Back in just a minute. Alright, so as we get started to work our rows, this is some information. The border that I have at the beginning of my sample, there's 6 stitches. Everyone, everywhere, this is a repeat. It's simply knit 3, then knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit 1. And that will use up those 6 stitches. You will repeat that on every right side row. On the wrong sides, we just knit across. But I will remind you, knit 3, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1. Alright, so now let's get started. We're going to start working. Of course, I have, I've already worked some up, so I have something to work on. I hope that this is, that you can see this clearly. I'm not going to call out because we're going to have to work each row, as it's better to do this than to read it and then go back and do it. I'm going to take my time and take you through. So we're on row 1, but before we can do the actual, get my little yarn here, before we can actually start the pattern, we have our border and our little extra stitches. So here we go. This is using my number 8 needle, and I'm simply going to knit 3. Remember, that's the border. Knit 3, everyone, everywhere. 1, that's 2 and 3. Then I knit 2 stitches together. Then the yarn over and knit 1 stitch. And then you'd place a marker right there. Alright? You should have 2, 4, 6 every time. Slide the marker, and now simply just knit those 3 extra stitches, just so that, there's just some separation. Alright, so I'm going to change this marker and put on a color marker so you can see it. Now I'm up to my lace section. The lace starts out with 16 stitches. Alright, so row 1, this is the right side. So here is row 1 here. This is where we're working. Can you see that? Alright, I'm going to call it out as I'm working it. Alright, it says knit 2, because there's 2 empty squares, so knit 2. Now we have 1 stitch leaning to the right. You can see that. It leans to the right. Every time we will do a knit 2 stitches together. So I knit 2 stitches together. Then there's a yarn over. Now knit 3. 1, 2, and 3. Alright? The next stitch, there's a symbol that leans to the right, so I knit 2 stitches together. It's a little humid, but I can do it. Woo, it's a little humid, people. Alright, now yarn over. And remember, since I have already counted, pre-counted, otherwise I'd have to say stop and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 every time, but I've put my 5 there, so I know I can simply knit 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now look, we have 2 yarn overs right together. We're going to use that signifies a double yarn over. So after I knit 5, now watch, yarn over and yarn over twice. Then the last 2 stitches, knit 2. 1, 2. So you're at the very bottom, but at least you can see what you should have as we get started. You have the border, you have the extra stitches. Now, here's another tip. After you've worked the lace on every side on a little piece of scratch paper, on a little notebook, I just didn't want to keep filling up all this paper so it's confusing. But right now, let's stop and count our stitches. Every time you finish the lace, I would count it at least the first time we go through it. That way you can always find your place or figure out what row if you get lost. So let's count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. So row 1, I have 18 stitches. And then let me show you this. As we turn to work row 2, you can count on this side also. Sometimes yarn overs, they get sometimes they hide other stitches, so sometimes it's good to just count again on the back side. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Right here I would stop and put row 1 on a scratch paper, 18 stitches, so that I know if I get lost, at least I have some idea where I am. Alright, now once I turn the work, I am on the wrong side. Now watch. I'm going to lift up my magnet and I'm going right there. Here's row 2. Now we're going to be reading the chart in this direction. Alright, and working, of course, the wrong side. That represents the wrong side row. So let's go. It starts out, and I have, when you get a chance and you get enough done, we can mark the wrong side just so that you will know which is right and which is wrong. Alright, it says knit 3. So 1, 2, stop for a minute. Alright, after I have 1, 2, I've knit 2 stitches, and then look on this left hand needle, you will see the 2 yarn overs from the previous row. Can you see that? So for the third, knit 1, 2. Now in the first strand of the yarn over, I'm going to knit, so that makes 3 stitches. But now look, I still have that long strand left, and on the chart there's a dot. That means to purl. So I need to bring my yarn in front. I purl through that long strand. We've done this before. Take it under, pull it off, and then stop and put the yarn in back to continue across the row, because now I have to knit 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Then now you see the next symbol or the next stitch. I'm just making sure my camera, I thought it cut off. There's a stitch that leans to the left. So I'm going to do my slip, slip, knit, where I go into the back of the 2 stitches and just knit them through the back loop. Then the next stitch is a yarn over, then knit 3, 1, 2, and 3, then another stitch leaning to the left, so I slip, slip, knit again. This is on row 2 now. We're reading in the opposite direction. Yarn over, then I have knit 2, 1, 2, yarn over. Now look, the last stitch or the symbol leans to the right, so I need to knit 2 stitches together. So there's a yarn over, and then you just knit 2 stitches together. And of course on the wrong side, you just knit off those extra stitches that I added. The little border and the little 3 stitches. You just knit them off, just like that. Okay, so now we've just completed row 2. And of course when you turn the work, you will be on the right side of the work, and that's row 3. Alright, and then if you want to stop and count your stitches as you go, the first time the first whole repeat, it's just good to have. Alright, so now I'm going to see, can I raise my, I'm going to go up to row 3, right there. Row 3 is the right side of the work, so you see we are working in this direction here. So let's try that. Make sure my camera is on. Yep. Alright, so I'll get to a point where I don't have to keep doing this little part, but it's not that big a deal. So knit 3, then I knit 2 stitches together because it's on the right side, yarn over, and knit 1. Alright, so I'm up to, I was just knitting across the little border and then those 3 extra stitches. We are on row 3, the right side, and like I said, we are working in this direction. All right, let's go across. I've already pre-counted, so all I'll have to do is, it says knit 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I have my 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Then there's a yarn over, and then the next symbol is a stitch leans to the left, so I slip, slip, knit. Then after that, it's knit 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. Then yarn over, another slip, slip, knit. Then there's knit 2. Now stop for a minute. There should be 4 stitches left on the left needle. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 stitches I have. Now watch right here. There's a double yarn over. Then there's a knit 2 stitches together because it's leaning to the right. Double yarn over and in with a knit 2. So let me show you how it looks. I have 4 stitches left. Here we go. Double yarn over, yarn over, yarn over. Then I knit 2 stitches together. Then the second double yarn over, yarn over, yarn over. And then I end the row with knit 2 stitches, 1 and 2. Does that make sense? All right, that was row 3, the right side. And of course, when we turn the work, can I get untangled here? All right, when I turn the work, I'm going to move my magnet up, and we will be on row 4. Now I'm going to stop the camera this time because it keeps cutting off when seems like every time I move something. So there's row 4. All right, give me just a minute. All right, so now I am on row 4. And of course, we are working in this direction, coming back across. The first thing I need to do is knit 3. 1, 2. Now slow down when you get to the third one because that's part of the double yarn over. Remember? So I stop, go up under the first part of the yarn over. That's a knit stitch. Pull it off, but leave the second part on. Can you see that? So I have 1, 2, 3. Now I need to bring my yarn in front because this dot tells me to purl that part of the stitch. So I bring my yarn in front. Now I take my needle and purl up under that long strand. Pull it off, stop, put the yarn in back. Otherwise you're going to have an extra stitch. Now look, the next thing I have is I have knit 2. So 1, 2, then I see another dot because I'm slowly going to take that knit stitch off, and there's the long strand. Bring the yarn in front, purl up under the strand just like this, pull it off, stop, put the yarn in back. Now let's continue. The next thing I see right here we are if you're lost, knit 1. Then I have a symbol leaning to the left, so slip, slip, knit, yarn over. Then I have knit 3, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Then I have another slip, slip, knit. So it just saves me from having to do the original slip, slip, knit. Now yarn over, and I've already pre-counted, and I know I need to knit 4. So let's go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. The last thing I need to do for this row is to yarn over, and then I have a stitch leaning to the right, the last stitch. So I knit those 2 stitches together. and then slide the marker and just knit all the stitches, all these extra stitches in the border off, just like this. Okay, I will knit the border, and when I come back I will be at ready on the right side to work row 5. I'll be ready to work row 5. So we're up to row 5. We're on the right side of the work. So I've done the first part and I am up to the lace. Alright, now row 5, like I said, is the right side, so we are working in this direction. Let's go. Alright, I've already pre-counted, so I simply knit 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. See? Saves a lot of time. Alright, the next stitch is a yarn over, and then the symbol that leans to the left, so it is a slip slip knit. Then there's knit 3, 1, 2, and 3, yarn over, another slip slip knit, and then right here as we get to the end, knit 3. So I knit 1, 2, and 3. Alright, check and see if you have it. 4 stitches left. 1, 2, 3, 4. We will do, the next thing is to do a double yarn over, yarn over, yarn over. Then the next symbol is leaning to the left, so that's a slip slip knit. And we will end with a stitch leaning to the right, and that's a knit 2 stitches together. So let me show you what it looks like. Alright, so I finished the knit 3, so now watch the double yarn over, remember, yarn over, then slip slip knit, because it's leaning to the left, and I end the row with knit 2 stitches together because that symbol is leaning to the right. It's a little tight for me, but I got it. I made it. So that is row 5. And like I said, try to remember to count just so that this first, as you go through the first repeat, so that you will always know how many stitches you should have. Alright, so now when I turn the work, let's see if this disc will work okay. Alright, so now let me just move my marker up. We were on row 5, so the wrong side is row 6, and we will be working in this direction. Row 6 is the wrong side. Alright, let's go. It says knit 3, 1, 2, and 3. Now watch. Slowly knit 3. Take the first part of the yarn over off because we just did a double yarn over on the row before. Now watch. There's a dot, so I bring the yarn in front. I purl under the long strand, purl the stitch, pull it off, stop. Put the yarn in back again. Now we can continue, and I've marked it as knit 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alright, yarn over. Now watch. Notice that the next stitch leans to the right, so I knit 2 stitches together. Then I knit 3, 1, 2, 2, 3. All right, again, I have a yarn over and the stitch that leans to the right, so I knit 2 stitches together, and I knit 3. 1, 2, and 3. And to end row 6, the wrong side, I end with a yarn over and the last stitch leans to the right, so I knit 2 stitches together. Woohoo! So I slide my marker and then I knit the rest of the row. Just knit off those stitches. Okay, we only have a couple more rows. Hope my camera makes it through. I guess I'm going to have to start looking for a new camera. Okay. Now, when we turn the work, we are on row 7, and it is the right side. So I'm going to move that up. Now let me check and make sure that I didn't change anything, that you can still read it. All right. Now, I'll go ahead and just do the, so I don't have to turn the camera off. I'll just go ahead and do my little border. Knit 3, then you knit 2 stitches together, yarn over, and knit 1. Everyone, everywhere. And then I had 3 little extra stitches. So now I slide my marker and I'm ready to work row 7, the right side, reading and working in this direction. All right, it says knit 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. The next symbol leans to the right, so I knit 2 stitches together. And then I do a yarn over. Now knit 3. Oops. 1, 2, and 3. All right, the next symbol leans to the right, so I knit 2 stitches together. Oops, I got a little snag here, little snag yarn, okay. Then a yarn over. Now this is the one, if you look, I've already pre-counted, so I know there's 10 stitches. But to save myself even further headache or any kind of problem, before I start working those 10 stitches, I go ahead to the end and count and see if I have them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 10 stitches. So now I know all I have to do is knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's 10. Whew! All right. Guess what? We are on row 8. I didn't have a struggle with the stitch. I just had a struggle with my camera. It kept cutting off. All right. Row 8. Well, let me move my little marker up. I'm determined to get it all on here. Row 8, of course, is the wrong side, and we will be working, not only working in this direction, but we have stitches to bind off on row 8. So, looking at the chart, there are 5 stitches to bind off. So here we go. You have to knit the first 2, just like this. Knit 2 stitches. Now reach back and bind off 1. So that's 1 stitch bound off. All right, knit the next, bind off. That's 2. Here comes 3. Try to keep them loose. Then 4. Here's number 4. One more is number 5. All right, 5 stitches bound off. And like I say, you get distracted. It's always good to know how many stitches should I have just in case. Let's count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 stitches. Just in case you get distracted and you go, well, how many stitches did I bind off 5? Now, the next thing, let me show you this tip. The next thing I've already counted, and you can see I have 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I put 6 there. I have 6 stitches to knit. But when you count those 6 stitches, watch. You must count this stitch on the right hand needle as stitch number 1. I kept making this mistake and I couldn't figure it out. So you count, I would just do that one and then start counting 6. No, you have to count this one as number 1. So that's 1, and then you start 2, 3, 4, 5, and now 6. Okay, 2, 4, 6. All right, and the next thing I have is a yarn over and then a stitch that leans to the right, so knit 2 stitches together, then knit 3, 1, 2, and 3. All right, then yarn over, knit 2 stitches together, it leans to the right, knit 1, and I end row 8 with a yarn over, and you should have 2 stitches left before the marker, so I knit those 2 together. Slide the marker and knit across to finish up the row. Okay, so guess what? That was the last row, and we have repeated the row. We have worked this whole lace stitch, the Victorian zigzag. You have made one complete repeat of the stitch, rows 1 through 8, working from the chart. So now all you have to do is to practice, because remember, knitting is just practice, practice, practice. So let me show you again the stitch. You can take your time and practice. You don't have to worry about it. It's just, like I say, practice yarn to kind of see if you can read the charts. And what I will do is make sure that I take a good picture of the chart so that you can, for the ones that don't have the book, and so that you'll have something really that you can see it really well, and that you'll be able to just see if you could follow it just like I worked row by row. All right, let me do that and I'll be right back. We're going to look at the stitch one more time, and if I can think of anything else, any other tips to help. All right, back in just a minute. All right, so I just wanted to come back to end Jay's stitch tutorial number 13. We have just completed the Victorian zigzag lace, and even though you've maybe only done one repeat, but as you start to repeat, as you're practicing, and I gave you the working formula for the piece that I was working on, 25 stitches. So you can see you could just continue to work and work, and it will make a nice scarf or a beautiful neck warmer. It just depends on how long you make it. It says I'm passing it before the camera. Look at that. Look at that lace. So you can continue to work this piece to a length that you think that you might like, instead of just making the swatch. In other words, I wanted to give you something a little more than a swatch. So this will be like a part of, my little sweetheart type scarves, where we're using a stitch to practice. And then when I come back in the next video, then I'm going to design, I'll have a project design with this stitch for those who would like to go even further, who would like to make something a little larger, probably beautiful, but since the lace is so pretty, probably a beautiful shawl. Can you not see this on the edge of a shawl? Isn't that pretty? Let's just turn it up this way too. What do you think of that? Well, I hope that you give this beautiful stitch a try. Like I said, if you just take your time and take one row at a time, just know where you are, have some way of marking, either highlighting or marking the rows, just so that you'll know where you are. And like I said, the best tip is at the end, every time you finish a lace row, count it and see if you have the right number of stitches for that row, so that you know that you can continue to go on and do the next row. So, like I said, I really do hope you like this. I hope you give it a try, and you will be ready once you practice this, you will be ready, and I'm telling you, you're going to be so thrilled when we do the next project with this lace. And that will, of course, be in the next video. So, this is Jay, and this is Jay's Stitch Tutorial number 13. Working out of another Shetland lace to add to our little repertoire. We're just doing them one by one as I see that I can design something out of the beautiful book by Elizabeth Lovick. So, thank you for joining me, and I will see you with the next tutorial. Take care and enjoy your beautiful stitch. You are amazing. Bye-bye.